Hi, in this video we're going to talk about how to enter pre-post survey data into an Excel spreadsheet for analysis. Suppose that you have a survey and a survey questionnaire, and you're able to distribute this survey questionnaire at 2 points in time to the same group of individuals, right? Like this one, this statistics questionnaire. Let's suppose we ask students to give us their reactions before they enter the course, right? Before they enter 385, and we ask them their opinions about whether they like statistics or under expectations and their GPA, right? To see if anything has changed after their experience in 385, right? So in pre-post data, you would have an excellent tool to analyze the changes, right? Changes in a group, and many of you may be using this design in your capstone. So we want to talk about how to enter pre-post data in your in Excel. All right. The first thing you need to do when you have pre-post surveys is to determine if the observations in the pre and post can be matched, right? If we have matched data, we have observations from the same element or the same respondent at 2 points in time, in the pre and in the post. And we can identify the respondents in the pre and the post and match their surveys, right? Now, in many cases, you may distribute surveys to the same group, right, at 2 points in time, but because the survey was anonymous, you cannot match the two, right? There may be the same group of people, but if they cannot be matched, then you don't have a matched data set. You still have pre-post, but they're not matched. If you have matched data, then there is a little extra consideration that you need to do, but it's basically the same. So the only different thing you do when you have pre-post surveys, right, is when they're not matched, you have one additional step to what you already know from the previous video, right? And that is creating a variable called pre-post, right, that has two values, pre and post. Otherwise, it is the same, right? You would order the surveys, right? You would start with the pre's, right? Right. This is a pre, number 3, pre, and then I start with, after number 5, the post. So this happened after they took 385. Pre was before they took 385. Post is after they took 385. Each survey is numbered in this case, right? Now, in this example that I'm showing right now, you have respondent number 1 taking the pre, and this is the survey, right? Now, if we can somehow identify respondent number 1 in the post, right, then we would have this sort of thing. So we had respondent number 1 in the pre, now we have respondent number 1 in the post. That is matched data. We can match the same respondent in the pre and post, right? And this is respondent number 2 in the post, and this is the same respondent number 2 that took the pre, right? So this, in this way, we were able to match these ones. Now, if we were not able to match them, right, we still have to, of course, differentiate which surveys are from the pre and which ones are for the post. But then the numbers wouldn't really matter, right? Because this respondent number 1 is not the same respondent number 1, or at least we're not sure if they are, right? If they're not matched. So we would just put pre-post if they're not matched, and then go, with the numbers from 1 to 10 in this case, from 1 to 10. if they're not matched. If they are matched, then the same number goes in the post as in the pre, right? So now let's see how this looks in Excel, right? The variable labels and the values are the same for all the rest of the variables, right? But now we added an extra variable, the pre-post variable, right? The label for that is pre and post survey identifier. This lets us know which survey is a pre, which survey is a post, right? And the values are just two, pre and post. Okay. Now, if we go to the data, right? We have the same variables here that we had before, and this variable pre-post. Now, the first 5 observations correspond to the pre, and the next 5 correspond to the post, right? So the only different thing I did was pre and post. In the case that they were not matched, right? This would just be 1 through 10, right? And this will differentiate the pre from the post. In the data set that I'm using now, in this example, the data was matched, right? So number 1, we're observing the survey for this number 1 in the post, and we already observed number 1 in the pre. This is the same respondent, right? They have the same respondent number if they are the same respondent, right? And notice, of course, the pre-post variable. The way I introduced this one was the same way I did the rest. It can only take 2 values, so I used data validation, right? And the data validation is coming from that page, right? We added a pre-post, and those are the only 2 values that can go into this, right? I used the data validation tool to do that, right? It's coming from a list. It's coming from that list. All right. So that's the only thing you would do, right? If you have, those are the only 2 things that you would do. If it's not matched, then the only thing you do is create that pre, and then make sure that the numbers match, right? That the respondent number in the pre matches the number of the respondent on the post. That's all you need to do pre-post surveys. Now in the analysis of pre-post data, you will of course have this pre-post variable, and you will be able to use this as a grouping variable to check if there are differences between pre and post. But that's how you would input the data from a pre and post test. Go ahead and use the this file and the PDF file corresponding to this data set to make sure you get this point. Thanks for watching.